Hey there, fight fans. Welcome to the UFC on ESPN Plus 10 or UFC Fight Night 152 or UFC Rochester post-fight show brought to you by BloodyElbow.com and MMAMania.com, the two best mixed martial arts websites on the entire planet. My name is Flying Brian J, and joining me as usual is at least one. Oh, there's the other half of the 6-round post-fight show. We've got Mr. Positivity, Eddie Mercado, and Major Zane Simon. We just watched Rafael dos Anjos submit Kevin the Motown Phenom Lee in the 4th round with an arm triangle choke atop of a card that was pretty damn good. Zane, the last few weeks, and actually like the entire time we've been doing this post-fight show together, we've talked about how the undercard sucked, but the main event saved it. This time, the prelims and everything leading up to the main event was actually pretty fucking awesome. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, no, I mean, I when I was looking at this card, breaking it down this last week, I thought, this is a really solidly booked, fun fight card. It's got a lot of guys who are finishers on it, a lot of fights that just look like they're headed towards fun action matchups, a lot of prospects I was interested in seeing, and it turned up. Yeah, everything was good. I got no complaints for a fight card like this. It ends early, it runs fast, and had a shitload of people getting knocked out and submitted.
There was not a lot to dislike about this fight card, and I know that Mr. Positivity, you've got to be on like cloud 9, but not cloud 9, but sometimes Mr. Positivity isn't all that positive on this post-fight show, but this time, Eddie, you are?
Oh, I have to be. Like, this was great. Everything about this card was great. It started with Julio Arce, who I just absolutely love to watch. And, once he hit that head kick, I'm like, okay, let's get it going. Like, I'm ready for some fights. So, like, it really just set the tone. And the rest of the card, it was just like, finish, in, like, various ways. It's like you got so many different types of wins. And it's just, it had something for everyone. It's like, if you want to see all, not all, but a lot of the different ways in which you can finish a fight, check this card out.
Yeah.
And like that one dude, how do you say his name? Pereira?
Michel Pereira?
Pereira, yeah.
Dude.
Yeah.
He's the new Johnny Walker, man. The Johnny Walker, the 170 pound division.
He's the blue label.
Oh, one notch above, huh? Johnny Walker red. All right. Yeah, sure, man. But yeah,
he's blue label. But yeah, man, this card was great. Ed Herman got a win by a knockout. Like,
I know.
And Patrick Cummins does such a good job of selling getting knocked out. He's like the best.
Oh. See, the problem is this isn't pro wrestling, so he's not selling it. It just is really what happens to him. He's the guy who helps. He helps every stuntman, action movie, fight choreographer, and all that be able to turn around and point and be like, "See, no, it's real life." When this guy comically falls through a railing and wobbles all over the place after getting hit with a big shot. No, that's exactly what happens in real life too.
Yeah, he does. Well, what was very interesting is both those guys make each other look really good. Ed Herman is so slow that the 1-2 combinations that Patrick Cummins was throwing, they looked crisp and fast and like, holy shit, Patrick Cummins has some striking, but no, it's just because Ed Herman is so fucking slow.
Yeah, but you gotta love Ed Herman getting that KO win. I feel good seeing that. He's been around forever. As he said, he gets none of his due. He hasn't been in one UFC game, despite having been in the UFC long enough for like the old UFC game that they released on like PS2 or PS1 rather. Like
13 years, dude. He's been in the game, in the UFC.
Put the guy in a fucking video game, If you have to recalibrate the controls for somebody who moves that slow, I get it, but whatever. Just like make it fucking happen. That's why he's never been in. That's the real reason. They're like, we want faster frame rates. We don't have to slow this whole thing down just for
glitches out the whole system.
They keep trying to make him, and then they throw a punch, and it's just like watching it move across the screen while the other guy's throwing like 10 shots. Like, we can't do this. It doesn't work. But
severe Ed Herman lag.
Yeah, severe right arm and leg.
But he got the knockout, which was
Yeah.
super cool.
Well, Zane, so the main event of the evening, Rafael dos Anjos dispatched of Kevin the Motown Phenom Lee in the 4th round. Was anything about this fight surprising, and what do you think's next for Rafael dos Anjos?
Oh, yeah. I mean, everybody was picking against RDA in this just because it's the kind of matchup he always tends to lose. So I think you got to be a little bit surprised and impressed with him turning it around and winning it. And it also just kind of shows for Lee that he just doesn't have the gas tank. I think, you know, people talk about, oh, like heart or something like that, but dude was fighting hard every minute of that fight. It's not a heart thing. He just doesn't have the gas tank to fight.
It's a gas tank and a game plan thing, honestly.
Yeah.
Like his game plan was to come out and try to knock RDA out in the opening moments.
Yep.
And when that didn't work, he was going to go to grind mode and try to out grapple the grappler, which is crazy.
Yeah.
And it's like he wanted to tire him out. And it's like, there's no way you're going to tire out RDA in the grappling department. Like, you have to mix in other things. You have to be attacking the body. And, like, Lee was throwing body kicks, but he wasn't really hurting RDA to the body.
Or like throwing him to the non-liver side, which is always kind of like, it looks really cool and it hits really hard, but I always wonder, I'm like, well, what are you really investing in over there, you know?
Yeah, I mean, it's still damaging the core. It's still like complete.
It's not like it doesn't land, but it's just like,
it's just not necessarily a fight ender when you go to that side. Even though it has happened, I've seen Melvin Gillard do it with a punch.
It happens, but it's just not. You know, it's not necessarily the best place to put your investment if you're throwing a kick that hard.
So do you think that RDA, or what do you think's next for RDA? I thought Leon Rocky Edwards would be a great next fight for him because right now he's sitting number 3. I don't really feel like seeing him in a rematch against any of the elite welterweight wrestlers. So him being kind of like the stepping stone for Rocky Edwards would be a good thing, I think. And then in terms of what's next for Kevin Lee, go back to 155?
I mean, I don't know. If Kevin Lee's comfortable at 170, he should fight at 170. He just clearly needs to work out different kinks in his game. It's not like his game worked any better against Ally Quinta at 155. So if you're having a brutal fucking weight cut, the problem is probably not the size. It's the other things that are going on. It's the cardio. It's his striking. He's still like, he's a very willing, long-limbed, hard striker, but he's still stiff. And when he gets hit in open space, like every round, RDA was able to clip him with something that had him gave him pause. That looked like it wobbled him. Like RDA clipped him with a head kick right out of the gate that immediately had Lee like backing up and rethinking his strategy of coming out and just putting hands on RDA. And you know, that's not a problem that goes away at 155.
Right, no, it might even be worse at 155.
Yeah. For RDA though, I mean, yeah, maybe Edwards. I don't really think RDA probably wants that fight. It's also another guy who wrestles all the time on his way to a win. Edwards is, he can be a fun out striker, but mostly he's gotten to the top with a really good wrestling game. I kind of expect RDA to he's probably going to want to call out like Thompson or, I don't know. I mean, he's going to want Usman and Covington because he'll want rematches, but I could easily see him wanting Thompson or Till too.
Yeah, he said whatever's going to get him closer to proving that he's one of the best in the world and to getting himself a title shot.
And beating Edwards would not be that even, for him. Like, if he beat Leon Edwards, that's not going to be like, oh, he beat Leon Edwards, now RDA, you got to give him the title shot,
No, I mean, it's real hard to ever make an argument for RDA getting title shots. Like, he always
I know.
snubbed. Like, he's classically getting snubbed. I mean, maybe he'd be better off trying to get the Pettis Diaz winner.
Yeah, no, I mean that's definitely the kind of fights that he's probably going to be gunning for and looking for big, notable, high-profile opponents. I wouldn't mind getting to fight Edwards.
He's still mad about the not getting that Conor McGregor fight.
Oh yeah.
Eddie, what post-fight rating would you give this entire night of fights on whatever the hell scale you want to use today?
I mean, you have to give it a 10. Like, this is perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah. It's not the best thing the UFC could ever put on, because obviously like a big, huge pay-per-view with huge stars, highest profile, where everything goes perfect, that's going to be like your holy grail. But for the fight card it was planned out to be, it's an absolute 10. It's the best fight card that could have been.
Yeah. The best fight card, the regular fight night of the year.
Yeah.
Like as a whole.
Yeah.
Like, this is awesome. Like it's
we've had more thrilling main events, but this was the best fight card overall, top to bottom.
Zane, so I agree. It was probably the best fight card that we've seen. And I think one of the reasons is how they decided to do the matchmaking. And maybe that's not how they meant to do it, but just looking at the odds pre-fight, this was the first card in a long, long time where we had a whole bunch of heavy favorites. A lot of the times, like, there's even pick'ems throughout the entirety of it, like, or minus 150 to plus 135, or a ton of that. This time we had like Desmond Green minus 900, Davi Hainish minus 550. There were a lot of heavy favorites here, which set us up for a lot of finishes or upsets like we got in Felicia Spencer versus Megan Anderson. Do you think that was a conscious effort that the UFC might be going to something like this, or just was happenstance?
No, it's a pure happenstance. I mean, you're looking at Des Green absolutely wanted to fight in Rochester. He begged for it. The UFC probably did him a solid and were like, okay, well, let's get him a lightweight to fight on this card. They went out and found somebody who wanted to fight. Arce Arosa, it may have ended up being a huge favorite fight, but that's just kind of classic UFC matchmaking of guys who have been in the UFC for a pretty equal amount of time, both coming off a loss, throw them together, see what happens. And Luque and Magny getting injured, so Derrick Krantz coming in. Davi Ramos Austin Hubbard fight that's probably your weirdest one. That's like the one that's just really like, of all the lightweights, you got to go bring in some dude who nobody knows to fight Davi Ramos, I guess. And then Megan Anderson at women's featherweight. Like, what the fuck else are they going to do other than throw newcomers in? Like, they got nobody there to fight if they're not bringing in new people. So I think it's really just happenstance.
Well, just a little bit about the Megan Anderson Felicia Spencer thing. It was fascinating that Laura Sanko said that Spencer actually called out Anderson after her last Invicta win. So that's just really cool.
Yeah, smart work from Spencer as Invicta champ. Call out somebody in the UFC. Start making start telling the UFC, I want this fight in your promotion, and she got it,
She's already gunning for that Cyborg fight, which I love. Like, anytime I hear someone saying, I want to fight Cyborg, like, I enjoy that. That's like, because it's usually people just skirting away and completely going any direction but towards Cyborg. So it's
which would make sense. I mean, that'd be a smart thing to do. Unless you're Amanda Nunes.
So all credit to Spencer. She's game as hell, and she pulled out a win here that, I didn't think she could get. I didn't think she could get Anderson down just with her kind of like funky, not that athletic takedown setups. And she pulled guard and then slipped out the back and out scrambled her, and that was pretty amazing.
Very, very impressive. Do you want to give a what the fuck moment or a shining star, Zane? I'll let you get out of here.
Well, it's got to be a Michel Pereira. Like, there's no shining star, what the fuck, all in one. Dude gets all the credit. I doubted him because I watched him play around with a chunky welterweight and a light heavyweight bout in Korea and was just like, I watched him get smoked too by some dude over on like the Czech regional, on like the Serbian regionals or whatever. Like, he's had some bad fights. He's fought a bunch of cans. He's looks wild and weird as hell. I was just kind of like, he's fun. I don't think he's gonna win. Whatever. And he just beat the shit out of Danny Roberts. Like, man, that's a hell of a fight and a hell of a win. And he looked wild and exciting and dangerous as hell. Like, he landed a shot so hard on Danny Roberts that Danny Roberts fell down. He looked like he was not. He didn't look like he was just flat out KO'd. He looked like he was in immense pain and knocked out at the same time. Like, just like, it was intense shit.
It was. He looked like Vega climbing on the cage. That was nuts,
Mm-hmm.
dude. Just jumping around and
I mean, the dude is clearly like he's got at least a big middleweight build and like a ton of athleticism, a middleweight athleticism, a top flight middleweight athleticism, and he's cutting down at 170 where he's just a giant freak of nature.
yeah, it looked like a video game out there.
Yeah.
Like it looked like he hit his special,
Yep.
and Danny Roberts just got melted.
Yeah. He gets all the credit. So I will watch. I will now. I am fully on the hype train. I will watch him fight whoever, whatever, wherever. Throw him and Mike Perry and Nico Price and whoever the hell else you want in the cage all at once and just let
He
him
needs
go.
to fight Yoel Romero and Paulo Costa at the same time.
Exactly. Like I want to see him go up to middleweight. Like I will watch him fight a whole shitload of middleweights all in one night. You know, just line them all up, let him
gauntlet.
go, see what happens.
A
Don't care if he
crucible.
wins.
A crucible.
Yeah,
Of this.
crucible of middleweights.
I
would
that.
watch that shit all day. But in the meantime, at welterweight, he's just a hugely scary dude. Like the dude he looked like he wasn't. I don't even know that he's all that much taller than Danny Roberts, but he looked a whole half person bigger. I think they're listed as being the same height.
Half
Yeah.
person.
I'm pretty sure he can like jump over the head of Danny Roberts.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that flying knee was ridiculous.
Yeah.
Like, ridiculous.
Well, Eddie, you got a different shining star what the fuck moment?
The only other thing I would say is just the whole card and just how many cool finishes we got and the variety of finishes. I mean, if you just want to go meta with it, we can. But nah, that dude Michelle is I don't know. He's different. He's fun.
Yeah.
He's exciting.
I'll let you do the
You
sign
should
off.
change your kid's name to Michelle right now. Like, that's rechristen him.
Yeah, his middle. I'll change his middle name to Michelle.
There you go.
That'll be pretty dope. But I'll let you do the sign off, Zane, and we'll
All
get
right.
out of here for this week.
All right, thanks. You can find me on Twitter at TheZaneTime. You can find Eddie on Twitter over at TheEddieMercado. We're both going to jump over and record the 6th-round post-fight show. That'll drop tomorrow over on Bloody Elbow Presents, where you can find us on SoundCloud, iTunes, YouTube, wherever out there in the podcast universe. So check that out. And Brian, thanks for having us on.
No problem. Thanks a lot, Zane. Have a good evening. Good luck on the 6th round.
All right, thank you. You too.
Okay, Eddie Mercado. We do this. Well, I've been saying it's the extra special something at the end of the first part of the post-fight show, but I want to change it to Eddie Mercado's positive minute. So
Okay.
I just want you to give me something positive from tonight. Like, so we've already talked about the card was great.
Okay.
Michelle Pereira was great, but just Eddie Mercado's positive minute.
How about Rashad Evans getting inducted into the UFC Hall of Fame? I think that's a big positive, right? I think he's definitely paid his dues. He came up in the Ultimate Fighter at heavyweight, fighting just the largest dudes ever and winning. And then he just whittled down to 205, knocked out Chuck Liddell in like one of the craziest knockouts you'll ever see. He was a big part of the Black Zillions, and, he really fell into the coaching role and helped a lot of fighters come up, and he's really done a lot for the sport, like a big pioneer, and he's put on some epic fights. And yeah, I think shout out to Rashad Evans, man. Kudos to him. Well earned Hall of Fame inductee, I guess. So yeah.
Do you think that they are trying to put in one person into the Hall of Fame for each UFC fight card? Doesn't it seem like they say that somebody's going to be inducted like every single fight card so far this year?
Has it been everyone? Yeah, I think it has been.
Well, I know that we've got Michael Bisping and Rashad Evans. Those are the two that we know are going to be inducted on July 5th. So, but yeah, Rashad Evans, he was the former light heavyweight champion of the world. He knocked out Forrest Griffin, and then, of course, got knocked out by Lyoto Machida. But, yeah, he's done a lot for the sport.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's my positive take from the night, outside of how awesome the card was.
So yeah, I just want to do the positive minute with Eddie Mercado every time after we're done with not that we're done with Zane, but once Zane kicks off, we're just going to be doing
Once Zane is done with us.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. I'm having while we're live here, I shouldn't do this, but I'm having trouble. Google Hangouts won't switch back and forth. Like, so when you start talking, it won't go to you. I have to do it fucking manually. Do you have any idea how to fix that?
Why does it? I think it does do it automatically for the viewers, but for us, it doesn't. Like, you will never be a big screen.
No, it's not doing it. I can see what the viewers see, and it's not doing it. Like, I have to do it myself. I don't know what's happening. Anyway, it's been a struggle. I did my best. Thanks a lot for
hashtag technology.
Yeah, next time I'll be better with it. But thanks a lot for staying for the positive minute, Eddie. What do you got going on? You want to give a shout out?
Shout out to you, Brian. How about that for constantly just being awesome?
Undeserved, but thanks, Eddie.
All right, man. I'll see you not next weekend, but the one after that.
Right? Yeah, we get a fucking break. Oh, finally!
Yes.
Like the pace that the UFC puts on, like every weekend. As a grown adult, sometimes it gets like I want to fucking see my wife one of these Saturdays.
I know. I want to go do something.
Yeah.
What's a weekend? A Saturday? What is that? I'm excited, though.
I don't know. We'll figure it out next weekend. Thanks a lot for being here, Eddie. Take it easy, buddy.
All right, man. Take care.
All right. For the live viewers who don't know what's going on, my name is Flying Brian Jane. For the rest of the show, you guys are my co-host. Marcus McGay, he says, I don't know if this is your shining star or what the fuck moment, Marcus, but the officiating during Megan Anderson's fight, I think it was Mr. No Nonsense, as John Anik would say, Keith Peterson, who he couldn't see the side that Megan Anderson was tapping on because she tapped on the cage side instead of the referee side. But like right as she started tapping, I think Felicia Spencer might have like nodded or given an indication to Keith Peterson that you need to look at the other side, and then he did, and then called the fight over. He was there within 2 seconds, 1 second even, of Megan Anderson tapping, and that was a really positive thing for Keith Peterson to do there. He's a really good referee. I don't think that he gets near enough credit. You know, people like Herb Dean, Big John McCarthy, who's now retired essentially, Mark Goddard, those are the guys that really get the attention from the masses in the mixed martial arts world, the fans, about being good referees. But Keith Peterson, I think, is a shining star out there as well. Marcus McGahee, my positive moment was Todd Anderson's officiating. Oh, he was not. He wasn't talking about Keith Peterson. Todd Anderson. Oh, I forget. He was in the fight with Ian Heinisch versus Antonio Carlos Jr. And what he's referring to is Ian Heinisch grabbed the fence in the second round when Carlos Jr. was going for a body lock, kind of just dragged to the ground takedown. And then Carlos Jr. kneed Ian Heinisch to the pills, and he did a really good job of warning each guy that, like, you do it again, you're going to get a point taken, and he warned them that you know, you're on the rocks here. You're going to get in trouble if you do any other crazy shit. World War I, Tim says, sorry to go off topic. What are my thoughts on Sage Northcutt's performance in one? Wasn't Keith Peterson the guy to pull Paul Harris off that guy's leg? Which guy's leg? Who small Paul Harris tried to break a bunch of people's different legs. But Uncle Hank says, good to hear about good officiating. That's true. Absolutely true. Oh, and he's saying that Mr. Anderson did a good job in Lentz versus Dubronx. He did do a great job. Let's talk about Charles Oliveira versus Nick Lentz. So I believe it was the second round because Charles Oliveira got the TKO in the second round. But Oliveira was on his back. Nick Lentz had gotten a takedown. Oliveira had pushed him off, and Nick was trying to re-guard, to re-get into Oliveira's guard. And Oliveira hit him with an up kick while Nick Lentz had his knees down. Todd Anderson separated them, warned Oliveira about the up kick on a grounded opponent. He said, you know fucking better than that. I'm paraphrasing, of course. and then asked Lentz if he wanted the position back. And it was awesome that he asked Lentz if he wanted the position back instead of just giving him the position, because if you're in the guard of Charles Oliveira, that man could submit you off his back in an instant, you know? So maybe you don't want to go back in his guard, because in the situation, this wasn't what happened, but in a situation like that, Oliveira could have pulled guard, and he could have been holding Nick Lentz in his guard. So maybe he doesn't want to be there anymore, and the referee would have stood him up. But he asked him, and Lentz wanted the position back, and he went back into the guard of Charles Oliveira. That's not how the fight ended. It was a right straight that sent Lentz to the canvas, and then finished with some hammer fist ground and pound. Great win by Charles Oliveira. He was like minus 152 to win via submission. I don't know what he was to win via knockout or technical knockout. Like, to win inside the distance was a pretty big line, because he was a minus 420 favorite. But to win via TKO plus 900, wow. That was a really impressive performance by Charles Oliveira. But on the flip side, is it really that impressive of a performance? Because he'd already beaten Nick Lentz twice. So why are we even having the third fight? I don't know. In the post-fight interview, Charles Oliveira asked Dana White and Sean Shelby to show him some respect and give him a fucking top 5 guy, which I fully agree with. Noah says, does RDA versus Wonderboy Thompson make sense? It does make sense. But I don't know. I personally want Rafael dos Anjos to fight Leon Rocky Edwards. And it's not because of RDA. It's because of Leon Edwards. Like, Leon Edwards is on a win streak. He's got wins over, I know he's not the biggest threat at 170 pounds, but Cowboy Cerrone, he's been asking for high caliber opponents for a long, long time. Rafael dos Anjos is currently sitting at number 3 in the welterweight rankings. It's not like he's going to be fighting the guys above him. Colby Covington, Tyron Woodley, or Usman, because he's already lost to Covington and Usman. Do we really want to see him against another big, strong, high-level wrestler in Woodley right now? Not really. So I think that he should play the higher-ranked guy in a fight against Leon Edwards, and we'll just see how it goes from there. That's what I would think for Rafael dos Anjos, but Slyface, the crying dude, says Charles Oliveira versus Paul Felder is good for the lightweight division. Paul Felder has already knocked out Charles Oliveira not that long ago with elbows, a ground and pound elbows. It happened in December of 2017. So I don't think Paul would want that fight again. I don't think we need to see that fight again. Sorry, Slyface. Toddle and June are here with the official post-fight bonuses. June says, fight of the night was Aspen Ladd versus Shajara Eubanks. Performance of the nights went to Michel Pereira and Grant Dawson. We've talked a lot about Michel Pereira. He came out there against Danny Hot Chocolate Roberts, did a couple of jumping off the fence Superman punch attempts that didn't find the home, but it was like, oh, fuck, this is dope. This guy's going to do some shit. He tried a rolling thunder, didn't land, but I was like, jeepers creepers. This guy's all over the fucking place. And then a flying knee to right straight sent Danny Roberts into the shadow realm. Okay, he didn't get knocked out totally. The other guys already mentioned it. He just looked like he was in a lot of pain, and this technical knockout. But Michel Pereira is a guy that we're going to want to pay attention to. He's going to be on all of my top 3 fighters to watch list. He's right up there with how hyped I am for Johnny Walker. But what I want to mention is that on his way to the octagon, he like cried and was very emotional. And Paul Felder was saying, like, this guy needs to get his emotions in check. If he's going to go in there and compete at a high level, he's going to need to get his emotions in check. Also, he talked about how other promotions called him a clown because of the goofy, wild shit that he does during fights, like the somersault or the moonsault that he did against the guy his last time out before coming to the UFC, and all that jazz. Evidently for Michel Pereira, it doesn't matter. Let the man do whatever he wants to do. It's like letting Cowboy Oliveira dance his way to the cage. Let this guy cry before he goes out there and sacrifices somebody to the mixed martial arts gods. If he wants to cry about it, let him cry about it. He put on one hell of a performance, and I think he almost deserves 2 post-fight bonuses. Neil says, Pereira's pre-fight UFC highlight reel is full of stuff that he did in this fight. The dude is insane. Shout out to Neil. Neil was here during my live play-by-play during the main card portion of this fight card, and he's also here right now. Thank you so much for being here, Neil. I appreciate you. If you didn't know it, I did a live during the last few pay-per-view events where I do a play-by-play, the best that I can do, so you feel like you're listening to the fights on the radio. I'm trying to get the bosses to let me do it for every fight card, and we'll see how it does. We need the numbers to be pretty big for me to be able to do that. But again, thank you, Neil, for being there. So we know the post-fight bonuses, the real ones. But on this show, we always give out $250,000 because we're not actually giving anybody any money at all. So since we know the real ones and I don't have to look them up, what would you give for the 5th bonus? So you get one more bonus to give that Dana White and the gang didn't hand out. Who are you giving the money to? So we had Ladd and Eubanks getting bonuses. We had Pahea and Dawson getting bonuses. Who else? You know, I almost lean Charles Oliveira, but he's already defeated and finished Nick Lentz twice. So why does he need to get a bonus for that? Vicente Luque had an impressive performance against Derrick Krantz after getting caught with a couple of right hands early. Does he deserve a bonus? He was a minus 1,100 favorite coming into this thing. I think that the bonus should go to Felicia Spencer. She was a plus 190 underdog to Megan Anderson, and she went out there and made it look easy. She took Megan Anderson down, took her back, and submitted her in 3 minutes and 24 seconds. This was her UFC debut, and she beat a well-known name in the sport. And then, like Eddie Mercado said, she might have called out Cyborg Justino. I'm impressed by the performance. I'm impressed by the call-out. And unlike Vicente Luque against Derrick Krantz, she showed up and performed as a pretty decent underdog. So my 5th bonus would go to Felicia Spencer. Oh, Daniel Alves is teaching us how to say Pereira. 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 Is that right, Daniel? Lavana Vaught, thank you for being here. Daniel Alves says Vicente gets the post-fight bonus for sure. Neil says give it to Ed Herman, the old man bonus. Noah says RDA for weathering the storm and showing experience. Marcus McGahee agrees with me for giving it to Felicia the Phenom. And Lavana, and Lavana agrees with me as well. Pereira. Thank you, Daniel. Appreciate that for filling us in on how to properly say one of the most exciting fighters in the entire fucking sports last name. We need to know how to say it. Does he have a nickname? What is that? What is his nickname? Oh, I think it's something cool, isn't it? I gotta Google this. I know you're gonna tell me in the comment section. Wait. Oh, Demolador? His nickname's Demolador. I don't know what that means. But the Demolition Man, probably? Demolisher? Could be. Anyway, let's talk about... I want to go back and talk about the beginning of the night of fights and just kind of recap them, because the first 5 fights had me drooling. I was so fucking pumped about this fight card after the first five of them. Julio Arce versus Julian Erosa started the night off, and it was... I think it might have been even going into the 3rd round. Julio Arce needed to control the striking and put his more powerful strikes on Julian Erosa in order to win a decision. He hit Julian Erosa with a 1-2 combination, a jab straight, and then a left high kick, bam, sent Erosa into the shadow realm. Fucking awesome. What an amazing way to start the night of fights. Then Zach Cummins versus Trevin Giles. Cummins went out there and won the first round. He outlanded Giles 16 strikes to 10. Second round, it was closer in terms of significant strikes, and Giles gave Cummins a cut over his by one of his eyes. It was like a glancing right straight that cut the eye open. Anyway, Giles got the second round. Cummins needed to turn it on, put some powerful strikes on Giles to get the decision. He ate a right straight from Giles, came with his own overhand left that dropped Giles, and then sank in a guillotine choke with 59 seconds to go in the fight. He might have won a decision, he might have not, but thank you so much, Zach Cummins, for not making the judges be a part of this fight night. 2 bouts into the entire card. Then we go to Ed Herman versus Patrick Cummins. I said this when Zane and Eddie were here, but Patrick came out and was landing some sharp 1-2 combinations on Ed Herman. Because Ed's so slow, like the 1-2s seemed really good from Cummins. But then Herman started to fire back with some decent power on Cummins. So Cummins, I feel like he got a little desperate and went for a takedown attempt, or he lowered his shoulder level and his head from too far away. And when he did that, he came in and he ate a knee to the temple from Ed Herman that sent him like careening back toward the fence, looking like it was a cartoon knockout. And then Ed Herman finished him with some ground and pound strikes. Then we had Grant Dawson versus Michael Trezano. Well, where Trezano was kind of lighting Grant Dawson up on the feet a little bit with long straight strikes, was swelling the face up of Grant Dawson, but Dawson got the takedown. And when the fight was on the ground, Dawson just did whatever the hell he wanted to Mike Trezano. And what he wanted to do and what he ended up doing was getting a rear naked choke at 227 of round number 2. So that fight had a lot of ebbs, a lot of flows. We had one guy winning in one department, one guy winning in another, and then we had a finish. Then after that, of course, we had Michel Pereira over Danny Roberts. We already mentioned that the Superman punches off the fence that didn't get there, the flying knee to right straight. Good golly, what an amazing way to start the fight card. And I thought if Desmond Green could just get a finish over Charles Jourdain, we would be witnessing one of the greatest fight cards in the history of time. But Desmond Green, he only finishes really, really washed fighters. Ross Pearson. So Desmond Green got the decision. Aspen Ladd versus Shajar Eubanks is a rematch. It was a really fun bout and a really fun way to end the prelim portion. Ladd got the better of Eubanks in the grappling department, up against the fence and on the canvas. On the feet at the beginning of the bout, Eubanks was landing with a lot of power on Ladd, and it looked like at the end of the first round, if Eubanks had just a few more seconds to put in work, she could knock out Ladd, but Ladd weathered that. Second round came out, and I scored it a 10-8 second round for Aspen Ladd. She went straight at Eubanks, got the fight to the ground, landed some ground and pound, got a rear naked choke attempt, and just showed a lot of heart, tenacity, skill, power even from Aspen Ladd. And the fight overall was back and forth. That one was. And that covers all the prelims. Daniel Barros de Fonseca says that Patrick Cummins must have the worst poker face in the entire sport. Yeah. Ashley Dawson says, why do you think Shoeface looked uncharacteristically sloppy tonight? Let's touch on this. It was the co-main event of the evening. Ian Heinisch defeated Antonio Carlos Jr. And to put it short, I don't think Antonio Carlos Jr. looked any sloppier than any other time tonight. This has happened to him before. Antonio Carlos Jr. got TKO'd by Dan Kelly not that long ago because he couldn't get the submission in the first round, and he got tired as fuck by going for the takedowns and back take attempts on Dan Kelly. Same exact thing happened tonight. Ian Heinisch weathered the early takedown and submission game of Antonio Carlos Jr., and as the fight went on, once the fight started the 6th minute, so the start of the second round, Carlos Jr., Shoeface, had blown his wad. He was already getting tired. And Ian Heinisch was doing a lot of Granby rolls, so Carlos Jr. would get in on a takedown attempt, Heinisch would defend it, stand up against the fence, turn his back to Carlos Jr. Carlos Jr. would often try to grapevine his leg between the legs of Heinisch to get a trip takedown and just kind of drag him to the canvas. But Heinisch would just do a Granby roll and stand right back up and go back against the fence. And it would, every time he did that, Carlos Jr. lost his grip a little bit, had to reposition, and his gas tank was just draining. I was all kind of surprised that Carlos Jr. didn't get finished in the later portions of this fight because of how quickly his gas tank diminishes. If he can't get fighters down at will, and if he can't work his back take game, especially as he gets tired and also both fighters get I gotta stop saying both fighters get sweaty, they get wet, they get slippery. It's harder for him to take the back. And Heinisch has really good submission defense. So I don't think it was uncharacteristic of Carlos Jr. at all. I think it was actually typical him. And we should take our hats off to Ian Heinisch. That's my opinion. Daniel Barros de Fonseca says, Lee goes back to his imaginary MMA ranks where he's the best pound-for-pound fighter in the world. Yeah. What's a Granby roll, says John Jr. You can see a GIF or a GIF of it. It's really funny to watch. Like, so Josh Thompson against Tony Elkukui Ferguson. Thompson has the seatbelt grip on Tony Ferguson. So he's got his hands clasped around the waist of Ferguson, but it's Thompson has his chest on Ferguson's back, and the seatbelt grip is he puts his hands around his waist and clasps them like in the front where you would, hook your seatbelt in. And to defend that position, Tony Ferguson like dives forward and rolls. So like if the person is going to hold on to the seatbelt grip with you, they're going to have to regrip every time you do that, or oftentimes they're going to lose their grip during the roll. There's a funny GIF where there's that Tony Ferguson versus Josh Thompson thing, and there's also one, I forget who's holding his waist, but Artem Lobov tries it and just kind of like dives his face into the canvas. But yeah, so it's Antonio Carlos Jr. has like the back of Heinisch. They're both standing. He's got his hands clasped around the waist of Heinisch, and Heinisch kind of dives forward and rolls, and then pops right back to his feet. That's a Granby roll. And Daniel says, yeah, a front roll. It's called a Granby in wrestling, though, John. I hope that I made sense of it. Follow me on Twitter. Send me a DM, and I'll link you to the GIF or GIF, whatever. Neil says, Kevin Lee versus Darren Till next. Both guys on 2-fight losing streaks. Both have big holes in their... the other can exploit, and both of them have big fucking heads, too. Both of them think they're great. Decent matchup, Neil. I don't know if I want to go with that or not, though. How about, I don't know. I think everybody needs to fight Mike Perry because Mike Perry's fun to watch, and he's kind of got a rudimentary game. How about Kevin Lee versus Mike Perry? Fuck it, right? Let's go with that. I think we covered pretty much the entire night of fights. We skipped a few things. We went over a lot of things. My last question for you guys is, what post-fight rating would you give the entire night of fights? I asked Eddie Mercado. He said he'd give it a 10 out of 10. But what is your post-fight rating? I would give it a 9.5 out of 10. I used to do this when I reviewed beers. There's no such thing as a perfect beer. You can always get better. That's my opinion. At least in my homebrew. When I make a beer, it can always be better. I'm like, oh, I can make this better. This fight card was really fucking good. Don't get me wrong. A+ the whole way. But I would take away like 0.5 points just because Carlos Jr. looked like trash. And also, the main event wasn't that exciting. There was a lot of just leaning up against the fence, Kevin Lee going for a single leg takedown, Rafael dos Anjos defending with a Kimura. That happened over and 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 over. Yes, we got a finish. Yes, the person who I wanted to win won. But there was a couple of lulls. Not enough to take away a whole point, but I'll take away a half point. I'd go with a 9.5. Johan Ahmed says 8 out of 10. Jackson Round says 9 out of 10 because a lot of finishes. Marcus McGahee says that Kevin Lee versus James Vick at lightweight would be interesting. Yes. Daniel Alves says an 8. Daniel Barros da Fonseca says tonight a 10. I had very low expectations going into this fight card, and it was awesome. One Love Football says 8 out of 10. The main event got a 4 out of 10. And the real Dr. J says UFC 217 was perfect. Marcus McGahee says that this one was a 7.5. Here's a couple of fight cards that were perfect. UFC 189, UFC 194, UFC 199, UFC 205, and I'll have to remind myself about UFC 217. Neil says solid 8, some fun finishes on the undercard, some disappointing performances from Shoeface and Megan Anderson, bonus points for finishing early. Absolutely. Normally, we'd be just getting into like the co-main event right now, and I'm done with both my shows for the night, so that's pretty awesome. While I have you guys, I have to ask you to please give the video a thumbs up. It would mean a lot to me if you could do that. My goal for thumbs up on this video is 100. If we can get to 100, it would mean the world to me, and the bosses would allow us to do more videos like this and like the live play-by-play that I did. So my goal is 100 thumbs up on the video. Follow me on Twitter at FlyingBrianJ. Send me a DM or just message me any way that you can, and I'll follow you back for sure. And we can talk about fights. I'll send you the gif of Tony Ferguson doing the Granby. One Love Football says UFC 229 was the best card of all time. Says that I've got talent. Thank you so much. Jackson Round says UFC 228 was solid. Woodley beat Till, Andrade, Burt, Carolina. Lots of underrated finishes, i.e. Jeff Neal. Yeah, for shizzle, man. Basically, watching fights on Saturdays is a lot of fucking fun, and seeing finishes makes it even better. God, Euphonium, man, says loved this card so much. It was delicious. It was delightful. I'm going to go continue to consume some of the content from this night of fights for myself beyond just my own content that I put out. Again, follow me on Twitter at FlyingBrianJ. Like me on Facebook at FlyingBrianShow. Subscribe to this channel. Give it a thumbs up. And I'll see you guys in 2 weeks where we will be talking about in 2 weeks we'll be talking about Alexander the Mauler Gustafsson versus Anthony Lionheart Smith in the main event. Co-main event is Volkan Oezdemir versus Ilir Latifi. A lot of other good stuff to look forward to. Tanya Evinger versus Lena Landsberg. Thank you guys so much. Namaste.